I am Gurudev Singh, scientist retired from the Institute of Forest Genetics and Tree Breeding, Coimbatore. There I have worked on tree improvement for about 3 decades. Subsequently, after retirement, I have taught the tree improvement to the postgraduate students and PhD students at the College of Forestry, Pannampet, Kodagu. So, tree improvement is a very important topic in forestry, and it is a bit a tough subject. And I'm going to just give an introduction to the tree improvement. So, if you see, the tree improvement is nothing but increasing the productivity or increasing the yield of the individual trees, and finally the yield of the plantations. Some people say that it is very expensive, it is long term activity, whether it is required. Yes, it is very much required because the farmers are interested in growing trees and they have to be given the fast growing uh, tree species. That is possible by the tree improvement activities. So when you see tree improvement activities, we need to have an understanding of the principles of genetics, and also we should know the breeding, how to do the breeding. So tree improvement activities in India started in systematic tree improvement activities in 1965 onwards. So somewhere else in the world also it started at the same time, and all of you know that we are India is a timber deficient country. So every year we import the timber, and that is uh, causing our exchequer. And there are so many wood-based industries. One of the major wood-based industries is the paper industries. So there are about 12 major paper industries and about 600 industries are there. So roughly, if you take this is a bit old data. So the plantations targets are every year. So we plant about whole of India about 40,000 hectares of teak and eucalyptus about 3 lakh hectares, casuarina about 1 lakh hectares, acacias about that is philodendron acacias about 10,000 hectares. So for all these activities, and a lot of farmers are also planting the tree crops. So for these activities, from where the seeds are coming, so that is a big question we need to ask ourselves. And as I said that there are forest-based industries like paper and pulp industry, there's a timber industries, plywood industry, matchwood, pencil industries, and these are the secondary industries like Ayurvedic industry, non-edible oil industry, bioenergy, craft making, NTFP dependent industries. But if you see, all these industries require the forest and forest products. Particularly, if you see this, the top about five industries, they require the wood. Okay, and to this requirement of wood is happening through long rotation crops and short rotation crops. The long rotation crops are like our the teak, the rosewood, and those things which are required by the timber industries, whereas paper and pulp industries and plywood industries, match industries, pencil industries, they are met with short rotation crops. So short rotation crops, we have got both the indigenous crops as well as the exotic species. So indigenous crops, we have got species like Milia dubia, Ailanthus excelsa. So these are the short rotation indigenous crops, and the exotics are the eucalyptus, the casuarinas, the philodendus acacias. So this is a plantation of teak, and the question is, who is supplying the seeds and who is supplying the good quality seedlings? So in the recent years, there's a lot of interest among the farmers in tree cultivation, and this is you can see that here it is the light green things are the paddy fields, and the dark green things are the casuarina plantations. So the paddy and casuarina are being grown together by the farmers. So they are going for this. Farmers are going for tree crops because of they are not labor intensive, and also you can time your market. So if the market is down this year, you can allow the trees to grow for one more year and you can sell it. So that is why there is a lot of interest among the farmers in India to grow the tree crops. And like I mentioned that the both paddy and casuarinas are grown together. There need to be a balance. So food is important, but to cook the food we also require the wood. So this is a Milia dubia plantation, which is when I was taken this one, it was about 9 years old plantation. So this is just to show you the type of tree crops which we focus on tree improvement. And this is a nursery of teak, uh, and this is the Casuarina nursery in coastal Tamil Nadu. So it is in the coastal sandy areas. They raise the nurseries, and the naked seedlings are planted. And this is eucalyptus nursery in a paper mill. You can see there's a uh, lakhs and crores of seedlings are produced. But the question here is again, from where do these people get the seeds? So if you see the tree improvement activities, so what we are interested is the fast tree growth, and this tree growth has to be managed along with the proper silvicultural managements, and there should be the industries which are available to use this wood. So if any one of these things are missing, then our tree improvement activities will not work. So the research institute should produce the good type of clones and the plus tree selections, all those things. And the farmers have to be given the management practices, that is silviculture practices, and this has to be consumed or this has to be used by the wood-based industries. So this is one basic we say tree improvement cycle. So one is we need to have the production forestry. So where we will have the seed production area, seed orchards, multiplication garden, and tissue culture techniques, and this has to be supported by the breeding. So breeding like species style, provenance styles, control crosses, selection, breeding. And for all these things, we also need a proper management, R&D, and also the most important thing is tree improvement activities require money. Funding is also required. So there should be a connection between the research as well as the production forestry, and which has to be supported by funding. So when you say tree improvement, we focus on the increasing the growth rate of the tree crops. So the fast growing trees we try to develop, The second one is the adaptation to environment, survival. So it is not that you want to grow a particular tree crop. You cannot plant in each and every area. First, you have to carry out the trial whether this particular species is adapted or suitable for this area. And also, when you are growing tree crops, there are a lot of pests and diseases, and we work on controlling these pests and diseases in these tree crops. And finally, improving the quality of products such as the timber, fodder, etc. So the productivity enhancement can be done in two ways. One where we can keep age as the constant, and another case we can keep yield as the constant. So when you keep age as constant, say for example, my particular tree crop is giving a 100 tons for 3 years. In the same 3 years period, whether in place of 100 tons, whether we will be able to produce 120 tons of wood. The other way is keep yield as the constant, that is, I am getting 100 tons in 3 years, whether I can get the same 100 tons in about 2 to 2.5 years. So that is, we can reduce the rotation age. So people or the farmers are very much interested in reducing the rotation age. So instead of waiting for 4 years, they can harvest in 3 years, and they get money quickly. So that's why mostly we focus on reducing the rotation age of the tree crops. So when you are working on the tree crops, we consider both quantitative traits as well as qualitative traits. The quantitative traits which we can directly measure, like the height of the tree, the GVH of the tree, and all these things. And there are qualitative traits like the wood color, the straightness of the stem, the crown management, all these things. So both quantitative traits and qualitative traits are considered, and while improving the tree crops. So the tree improvement, is it required for all species? There are more than 400, 500 tree species, but what is required is the tree improvement is required for the species which is planted in large areas. These tree crops are planted in large areas because they are required by the industries. So if it is not required by the industry, if it is not the wood which is not going to be used much, then we need not have a tree improvement program for such species. So we say that the species which is planted in large areas, for that such species we require tree improvement programs. And what is the amount of gains we get from the tree improvement activities? So there are various components in tree improvement activities. So depending upon what stage you are in tree improvement activities, you will know about the gains. So roughly when you establish a seed orchard, we say that you will get about 30 to 35% more yield from the seeds which are coming from the seed orchard. So basically tree improvement, we say that the trees what we see from outer appearance, we call it as a phenotypic appearance. It is because of the genotype and environment. So that is P is equal to G plus E. Phenotype is equal to genotype plus environment. To put it in simple terms, a good seeds and a bad site, we end up with poor plantations. And a good site but a bad seed, again we end up with a poor plantation. A good seed and a good site, then only we will get a good plantation. Good seed refers to the genetic aspect, good site refers to the soil condition and also the silvicultural practices. So finally, we say the tree improvement is nothing but the marriage between genetics and silviculture. So both genetics and silviculture improvement are important for tree improvement activities. So I had mentioned that the gains what we get depending upon which stage of improvement you are there. So say for example, when you take the species introduction trial, that is what we do for most of the species when we introduce a new species to a foreign land. And this is the advanced stages of improvement. And by proper species selection, you can increase 25% more yield, by provenance about 10%. This is addition. So additional values. And when you with a seed stand or a seed production areas, we can increase by 15%. By selecting clusters, you can increase the yield by 20%. By seed orchards establishment and collecting seeds from the seed orchards, the productivity can be increased by 35%. So along with that, there is a multiplication garden, there is a clonal test, there is a progeny testing. All these things are there. And as we go on, I will be speaking on these aspects like provenance trials, the seed production areas, plus trees, the seed orchard, progeny testing, clonal testing, and multiplication gardens. So in a tree improvement activities, we say we need good quality seeds. These good quality seeds can come from good plus trees or good clones. Likewise, the good clones can come from good seeds. So the seed and clone both are important in tree improvement activities. To produce good quality seed, we need good clones. To produce good clones, we need good quality seeds. So this is from a Zobel's book, and it says that first we should know what species you have to work. So that depends upon the end product. Okay, and what is the geographic sources which is available for us to work on, and how we can use those sources. And the most important thing is what is the amount of variability which is there, and how we can use this variability. So please remember that if there is no variability, the tree improvement is not possible. So that is why we say that if a species has got a very narrow distribution and a very small population is there, so for such a species we cannot subject it for long-term tree improvement program. A species which has got a large distribution and a lot of variation, that will be ideal for tree improvement. Next comes packaging of the desired qualities into improved individuals, such as to develop trees with combination of desired characteristics. So this is possible by selecting the trees of desired quality and putting them in one place. We call it as an orchard. So in this orchard, we allow the different parents to mate and produce the better quality seeds and better combination of characters. And finally, you may have a good quality plant or a very good tree, outstanding tree. So we should be able to have, able to produce these things in large numbers. So that is mass production of the improved individuals. You are not able to multiply it either by seed or by cutting, then what is the use of such trees? And everything has to be based on a broad genetic base. So if the genetic base means we should have a large germplasm of the particular species, otherwise your tree improvement program will have a dead end. So here what is the difference between the agriculture crops and tree crops when you see this? So the duration, how long they are there in the field. So the agriculture crops, their lifespan is less than a year. So whereas tree crops, they are perennial. They stay there in the field for several years and maybe for decades and centuries. So these agriculture crops, they complete their life cycle in a few months. They grow, they produce flowers and fruits and end their life. Whereas the tree crops will be standing there and every year they produce the leaf, flowers and fruits. One advantage if you establish an orchard, it is a one-time activity and every year you can go on collecting the seeds. So the pollination mechanism in agriculture crops, mostly it is self-pollinated and also some amount of cross-pollination is there. But invariably the tree crops are the cross-pollinated and they are mostly pollinated by the insects. The agriculture crops, they produce meant for seed production, whereas here tree crops are not meant for seed production but for wood production. But as a result, they produce less quantity of seeds. So in agriculture crop seeds, there is no dormancy mechanism, and hard seeds is very rare. Whereas tree crops has evolved in various climatic conditions, and to overcome the adverse conditions, these seeds of the tree crops will have a dormancy mechanism, and scarification is required. And agriculture crops propagated by only the seeds, whereas tree crops we propagate by the seed as well as by cuttings and grafts. So croplands are under domestication for centuries, since the day the, the farmers have started cultivating. From that day onwards, the croplands are being improved. So as a result, and there's a many generations of improvement has happened. So that is why the genetics or the mechanism of inheritance and the controlling the traits is well understood in agriculture crops, whereas the tree crops are hardly one generation away from its natural conditions. So as a result, we do not have much knowledge about the genetic behavior and genetics. And again, we don't here breed for a particular pure line varieties. They are highly heterozygous for a given condition, and that is why we call the tree crops improvement is a mass selection and recurrent selection. So agriculture crops, the traits are mostly controlled by a single gene, whereas in forestry crops, the traits like wood traits are controlled by many genes, that is polygenic in inheritance. So here seed production every year is an affair, whereas here for 7 to 8 years, if you take teak, it will not produce any flowers and fruits. After it attains the maturity of 7 to 8 years, then it will start producing the fruits. So conservation mostly ex-situ for agriculture crops, whereas for tree crops, we work both on the ex-situ as well as in-situ conservation. So there's a further reading you can do is Applied Tree Improvement by Bruce Zobel and John Talbot, 1984 book. So we consider this as a Bible of tree improvement. And there's another recent book by Forest Genetics by White, Adams and Neal. So you will also find more detailed explanation on tree improvement. And this is a brief introduction. So in the next my presentation, I will be talking on the breeding cycle and other aspects. Thank you.